as you see here. I'm going to go with the English one. And here we can choose the template to use as a base for creating, in our case, a furniture element. I recommend that we use, in our case, metric furniture, because this way the element that we will create will already have the property that it is like a furniture when we export it in the IFC. It will be classified as a furniture. So after we have found this metric furniture, we just click open. We see that the family editing mode is now open. Here in the tabs, we see that the architecture tab is missing, but we have some other options, like this one with forms. We have this axis that will help us, that are like the planes. And we see here also in the project browser. So to begin, we need to set up the units. For this, you can just type UN, and this one will appear from the keyboard. The other option is to go and manage, and here you will also see project unit. If you click this, it will appear the same. So if you see here at length, millimeters, I would suggest in our case that we use centimeters. And then we confirm with OK. And here also with OK, and we will close this one. Did everyone manage to follow? Okay. So next, we need to create some reference planes that will help us define the dimensions and constraint. We will build a table for this tutorial, so these will help us. We can find them in this Create tab, Datum, and here we see reference plane. We click this one, and we see here that we are in the reference level. And then I'm just gonna click and create some reference planes like this. At this point, it doesn't matter how far apart they are. I will just create four reference planes like this. And then I will press Escape to confirm. But we need to also define the dimensions of these so that we can constrain them and use them as parametric dimensions later. For this, we go again to this Modify tab, and we see this, in the measure, we see this dimension here, or we can just press DI from the keyboard. And now we can just begin, I'm going to do from left to right to set the dimensions. Like this, you click, you drag up. And if we zoom in, we see this equal sign here. If we click, it will make both of our dimensions equal. It's also important to create another one that will go for the entire length, so that we can use this, we can give it a name, and we can edit it in a separate window without needing to go here and change it manually. So the same thing I will repeat for these ones, like this. Again, I will click this equal. In this way. After I've created this, I will just press exit, and this will be how it looks like. Here we can see now that if I take some of these x's and move them, both of them will move because they are constrained to be equal. The same thing will happen here. Any questions? Okay, so next we want to give some name to these constraints. For this, we just click to this long dimension here, and we see that the Modify Dimension tab appears, and under Label Dimension, Label, we see this icon here for new, to create a new parameter, like it says here. If we click this, then on the parameter data, we see the name here appears. constrain this to be, for example, the length of the table. It's important to make sure here that the family parameter is selected and here that the type is selected. After we have typed this in, we can confirm with OK. And now we see that it is defined that the length is 300. So later, when we go to change it in the separate window, which will be here, and I will show in a bit, we can adjust this without needing to drag these lines like this. Okay, so let's repeat the same thing for this one here on the side. So we just click it, this modify dimension appear, and then label dimension, and we go here to this new. Here I'm gonna do width. Again, make sure that the family parameter is selected and that the type is selected. Okay, so now we want to define these. For this, we go to the properties, which is, again, this modify, and we see this one, family types. We opened this also last time to check the dimensions. It looks the same. So here we see these two dimensions that we typed in earlier. And if we define here, then we can change them. I'm going to do 160 centimeters, for example, and 80. And if we select apply, we see that this now changed. We select OK and close it. Any questions? Yeah. So, in order to define these dimensions without changing the reference planes, we go to these properties here in the modify tab, this icon here, we click it, and in the dimension here, we see the length and the width that we typed in earlier. And if we just select this, I will change it just so that we can see the change. And I do 120, and here I will do 100. If you pay attention here to these reference planes, now that we apply OK, they will change. So I will revert it back. Okay. Next, we want to start drawing a table. For this, we need to define the height. To define the height, we also will need some sort of reference plate to help us. We go to the front here, so that we can see it from the side. And we go again, we want to create a reference plane. We can either go here to create and reference plane, or just type RP. And now I will drag a plane like this. At this point, it doesn't matter what the height is. Yeah. Here, we can select on this icon here. I don't know if you can see, and this will turn into a dimension. Now, to be able to edit it like we edited the other ones here in this window, we need to define this as a parameter. To do this, we select this one, the modify dimensions again, and we repeat the same step as earlier. Click on this icon, and I'm going to define it by typing here height. And then I confirm with OK. Now, if we check in these properties, here family types, we see that the height has appeared. It's also important in this step to add a name to this one so that we can reference to it later when we start drawing the top of the table. For this, you just click the name here, and I'm going to name it top plane.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What kind of furniture are we building?
A table? so after we created this top plane, we can now start drawing. For this, we again go to the reference level here. Then we go to create. We see forms, extrusion. We select this extrusion, and here I will select in the draw, I will select this rectangle because for the top of the table we only need a rectangle. You can try to snap it like this, but since it's sometimes inaccurate, I suggest that we do it a bit on the inside, like offset it a bit from the axis, and then we align it. We can either take the aligning tool here, or we can type AL from the keyboard. And for this, we select the reference plane and this. And then here, make sure to select on this lock so that it's constrained to stay where the axis will be. This we repeat for all the other ones. Okay, so now we have constrained the top of the table to be where the axis will be. If we check, here I'm going to select confirm. Now that if I change the axis, this will also change. Did everyone manage to follow? Okay, so let's see what it will look like from the side view. It was selected to be here. For this, we need to edit the work plane, and we see that it was selected to this reference level, but actually we want it to be placed on top of this top plane that we created. So we just change it here, and then we press OK, and we see that it will be now on this top plane that we created earlier. So again, this was if we just go to this front view, and then I select this extrusion that we created. Maybe I can show it in 3D. Don't know if we can see the extrusion yet. Yeah. And in order to make it so that it's on top of the plane, then we can click here, edit work plane. Just select this one, and in the name we see reference plane. Make sure it's on the top plane that we created earlier. And then press OK. So now to edit the dimensions of this one, we select it and we see in the properties window that we have the extrusion end and the extrusion start. Right now it's showing like this. We can also edit this way by dragging it. We see that this value here will get negative. I will leave it at -5, for example, and select apply. So this will be the top of our table seen from the side. Okay. Next step will be maybe to change the height here. For this we'll go again to the properties, and I will select the height to be 80. And then apply. Okay, we see that this parametrically changed. For the next step, we need to create the legs of the table. We go again to the reference level, like this. And in order to help us, we need to create again some reference planes. We select again RP from the keyboard, or here in the create, this reference plane. And I will create the reference planes randomly, but inside the table, like this. So I created 4 of them. Okay, now I exit this in order to confirm, and we need to again define the dimensions for these ones so that we can adjust them later. I'm gonna select DI from the keyboard, and we'll start measuring them from the outside to the inside. This way, I will select the ones that I think we need, for example, these ones. Okay. Now I will press escape. I will select all of these dimensions by holding the control key on the keyboard. And under this label here, that will appear in the modified dimensions, I will select this icon new here, create a new parameter, and just name this legs. Then I will confirm with OK, and we see that all of them now are the same. And they exist, they are defined as parameters. We can go to the family types, and we can edit them here. In my case, I will select just 5 centimeters and apply. Okay. Did everyone manage to follow? Because these axes, this is how we do it in Revit to help us. Like, they will be just like helping lines for us. We cannot see them on the side, but they are like helping planes. If you draw a normal line, then you are drawing an element. But if you do a reference plane, it will be just for you to trace over it. So then we can begin to draw the legs of the table. Again, we are in this reference level here. If we go to create extrusion again, I will select this rectangle because I want to draw like rectangular profile legs. And again, I will try to do it a bit more on the inside. We notice that now it's the lines are very thick, so it's very hard to see. For this, we can see here at the top this icon here, thin lines, and if I select it, it will make all the lines thinner, and so it's easier to see. So it's this option here. If I do AL again, align, which is also located here, and I select them like this, I can lock them just like last time, and then they will be defined. We will repeat this step for the other legs as well. So I can grab this rectangle. Let's try to do it just by snapping this time, like this, and make sure to lock all of these constraints here. Sometimes you need to look carefully if you are missing some of them. If you forget to lock any of these, then the legs of the table will not be constrained to the axis that, like the reference planes that we created. For example, I'm going to lock this one, and we see what happens since I didn't lock it. And now you see I can change this independently from this reference plane. That is why it's important to lock it in place.
So I have a question.
Yeah?
Can you copy already the leg from one side to the other, or is it important to create every leg independently? Because we're locking it to different reference points.
Sorry, can you repeat one more
So
time?
we have one leg on the left side. We could copy it to the right side.
Yeah, we could also
It's more
copy it.
important to create it individually, or can I also copy it?
I think you could also copy, but make sure that they have the same, they are locked and have the same properties. Just check.
Okay, can I create all the
create one, click this, and come back later, draw the rest.
Okay. Thank you.
The reason why we do it like this is because we make sure that they have the same constraints, and when we define the height, they will all be linked to each other. So now if we go to edit work plane, like earlier, we can see that it was set to this reference level. Maybe we can see here from the front that the legs are here at the bottom. So we want to place them at this plane here that we created. For this, we select edit work plane and then change this to top plane like this. And we see that the legs will appear here. This time we can try doing it just by dragging these arrows down, and we see that all the legs are now connected to each other. And make sure to lock so that it's defined on this axis. And here also I want to place the legs at the bottom of the top of the table. Okay, so maybe we can go into view. We see that the table was created here. Now, yeah. So we go in the front view. These are the legs that we have created here. And we see that they are now placed like this on the top. Because this is the reference plane, and by default it places it, like if we select, this is the working plane, and if we select them to be placed to constraint by the working plane, then that will be the extrusion start. And by default it's also positive, so it will go up. In our case, we wanted to go underneath this working plane, so we select this triangle and just drag it down until this other axis, and we lock it like this. But we also don't want this overlapping geometry, so I will snap it below the top of the table. And then I press exit to confirm this. If we go back to the view, we now see that these lines here appear because the geometry is not connected. In order to connect them, I see this join option here in the modify tab, and if I click this, I can select both of these, and they will be joined now as one geometry. Next is important to define some types for this parametric table so that we can later use it. For this, we can go to the properties here again and family types, just like earlier. And here we can see like type name here. We see this icon here, new. In our case, I will define that this one is a table, like a dining table maybe. And confirm it with OK. By doing this, the dimensions that we specified earlier will be linked to this kind of table. And if we create a new one, for example, let's do like a desk for working, then we select OK. This will create a copy of that first one that we had, but if we change the dimensions, we will save it now with the new dimensions. Like you see here, we have two. I will do the height maybe 70 this time. We can do the length like 120, and the width we can do 70. The legs we can change to 4. It doesn't matter, depending on what you want for this. And if we select apply, we see that the table will change. And if we go here and select the other one that we had earlier, for example, this dining table, we select apply, we see that the dimensions were saved. So this way we can save a couple of these parameters depending on the type of furniture that we need and access them easily this way. Then we can press OK to confirm. Did anyone manage to follow? Okay, so next we can try to give it some material. For this, in the 3D view, like we are now, I will try to select all of it. And we see here in the Properties tab, this material here will appear. If we select this one, it will associate like material to all the family types that will be similar to this, but in our case, I just want to add it. I just want to add the material to this one table, not the entire tables in the project. For this, I just go here to by category, I click, and we see these 3 dots will appear. And the material browser window will also open. Here in the material libraries, if you don't see this, just expand it by clicking on this one, and you will see this home here. We select it again, and we see here AEC materials. We can expand this one, and in my case, I will look for some wood material. And here we have different kind of wood. I will choose this birch. And since it's not already in the project, here we can see the materials that are already in the project, and this one is not there. I will need to click this up arrow to add this material to the project from the Revit library. We see that it appeared here. We select it, or it's selected by default in this case. We do apply, and we select again, we confirm with OK. Now, in order to see this change, we go here to the view, to visual style. We select this realistic, and we see that this is how it will look like with the material added. Yeah, this one. To add that, you can add here another plane, another reference plane like this, and then we can also add it now. For example, we go, now I'm in the front view, we do RP, like reference plane, and here we can add a reference plane like this. After that, we go here to the dimensions to measure this distance. We select again this one, and here we can do tabletop height. Okay, and I would just go now to the line and try to align this one to this, and we see that if I lock this, now I can go to this properties, family types, and we see the tabletop height is now also defined. And if we do here, let's say 6, we select apply, we see that this one will also change. You can add whatever constraints that you need depending on what you need to change parametrically. Okay, so any questions? Now the last step to do is to choose here at the types what kind of type of this you want, like what kind of settings you want for the parameters. I'm going to choose, for example, again this dining table, select apply, okay, and I can load it now into the project by clicking this, and we are done with the parametric family. Okay, so if there are no questions, we can do a 5-minute break, and then we will continue with the IFC part.